good evening, and welcome. Tonight we're going to be reading this book about ancient Greece. And it's not just any book, it is a you choose book, meaning that we'll get to decide what happens to us. Well, I'm going to decide what happens to us tonight. These are my favorite books to read and film because I haven't read anything in advance. I don't know what the paths are. My cat's awake and is causing chaos as usual, so he may ruin the shot in a minute, but that's just how it goes here on this channel. I'm just really excited to read this. Let's get right into it. Let's see what adventures await us this time. I should make a playlist of this book series. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. So, that just explains how the book works. So, here we go. A Culture to Civilization. Greece was the birthplace of Western civilization. During the 500s BCE, Greek thinkers established the principles of science and philosophy. Greek leaders gave the world the beginnings of democracy. People still admire the art and architecture of ancient Greece and read stories about its gods and goddesses. Oh, my cat finally is laying down. Whew, there goes that crisis. Ancient Greece was never a united nation. Instead, it was made up of more than 1,500 city-states. A city-state was made up of a city or town, plus the surrounding villages and land. Each city-state had its own government, but a common language, religion, and culture tied the Greeks together. Cool picture. My mouse is still in the shot. There we go. The most powerful city-states were Athens and Sparta. Athens had the biggest Greek navy. Athens controlled a part of Greece called Attica and led a group of about 200 city-states called the Delian League. The city-states in the league paid money to Athens in return for protection. This tribute made Athens rich. Sparta had the most powerful Greek land army. Sparta controlled a part of Greece called Laconia and had its own alliance, the Peloponnesian League. The city-states in the league didn't have to send money to Sparta, but they did have to supply Sparta with soldiers in times of war. Athenians and Spartans lived very different lives. Athenians prided themselves on developing art, culture, and science. People today still read the works of playwright Sophocles and philosopher Plato. Athenian culture reached its height during a period that lasted from about 461 to 404 BCE. This time is called the Golden Age of Athens. During this period, Athens thrived. Its citizens enjoyed luxuries and foods from all over Greece. Sparta was at its height during a period that lasted from about 550 to 371 BCE. In Sparta, luxury wasn't important. Spartan citizens weren't allowed to own gold or silver. Spartans focused on serving the state. At age 7, boys were taken from their parents and sent to military schools. They learned to live under harsh conditions and stern discipline. My cat's having a loud bath now, so of course he is. Women also had different roles in Athens and Sparta. In Athens, women and girls weren't educated. Wealthy women seldom left their homes. Spartan girls were educated and were treated as equals to boys. They learned to fight, but did not become soldiers. The era of ancient Greece was a time of discovery and learning. What will you experience as you travel there? So we're going to live in Athens and Sparta, but let's start with Athens during the 400s BCE. City of Wisdom. You are a citizen of Athens. One morning you take a walk through the busy city. You pass 3 types of people: citizens, non-citizens, and slaves. Citizens are people like you who were born in Athens. They include farmers, wealthy aristocrats, and craftspeople. You see few aristocratic women. Women and girls of this class stay at home. They are considered the property of their husbands. Women can be citizens, but they have no political rights. Non-citizens include people who came from outside Athens. They can't own land, but they can own businesses or work in industry. Slaves make up the lowest class of people. They have no rights. You cross the Acropolis. Some of Athens' most important buildings stand on this protected hill. One building, the Parthenon, is an enormous temple honoring Athena, the goddess of wisdom. The city is named for her. You keep walking and arrive at Nyx, the hill where the assembly meets. I hope that's how you pronounce that. Members of the assembly decide important issues that affect the city, including whether or not to go to war. Soon you reach the agora. This open area serves as a place for trade and meetings. The agora is also where trials are held and law cases are heard. Everywhere you go, the city bustles with activity. This is a good time to be a citizen of Athens. There are many things to do, many things to enjoy, many ways to live your life. To be a government official, to be a sculptor, or a philosopher, or a doctor. Let's start with government official, and we'll come back and do the rest. Just go in order. Government official. You grew up in an aristocratic family in Athens. You attended a local school as a child. Your parents then hired a private teacher called a sophist to teach you mathematics, geography, science, and philosophy. At age 18, you were considered a citizen. After serving 2 years in the army, you took your place in the assembly. Now at age 30, you are married and own a large house and several slaves. Best of all, you are a friend and advisor to Pericles. Pericles has led Athens for 29 years. Under Pericles' leadership, Athens has become wealthy and powerful. Athens and Sparta have spent the last 30 years mostly at peace. But now in 432 BCE, conflict is growing. People in both cities are talking of war. One night you have supper with Pericles at his house. You dine on fish, lentils, pomegranates, and figs, as you sip wine mixed with water. Drinking wine at full strength is considered bad manners. For dessert, a servant girl brings delicious honey cakes. After supper, you and Pericles go into the courtyard to talk. He tells you the city-state Corcyra is at war with Corinth and has asked us for help. Corinth is an ally of Sparta. Helping Corcyra will increase the risk of war between Athens and Sparta, but Athens can't avoid war with Sparta, and I want Corcyra as an ally. Why is Corcyra so important, you ask? The size of its navy is second only to that of Athens, Pericles replies. Plus, its location on the Ionian Sea will give us an important naval base. I'm sending 10 ships to Corcyra, and I want you to go with them. Our soldiers have orders not to fight unless the Corinthians try to land on Corcyra. Let's go. You've agreed to help Pericles. You are now standing on the deck of a ship off the Sybota Islands near Corcyra. Your hand rests on your sword, but you won't fight unless you are directly attacked. You are here only as Pericles' observer. The ships of Athens and Corcyra are facing ships from Corinth and one of its allies, Megara. All the ships carry archers and heavily armed soldiers called hoplites. After furious fighting on both sides, some enemy ships retreat. Some Corcyrian ships leave the battle to chase the retreating enemy ships. But with these ships gone, the Corcyrian fleet is weaker. Spears and arrows fill the air as the Corinthians sink many Corcyrian ships. Corinthian soldiers board their enemy ships, killing soldiers and taking prisoners. Oh dear. The Corinthians are gaining the upper hand, your captain shouts. We must return to Corcyra to stop them from landing. The Athenian and Corcyrian captains turn their ships around and sail back to Corcyra. There the ships line up to prepare for another attack. You watch tensely as the enemy ships come closer. But suddenly the Corinthians stop. Then they begin to back away. The Corinthians are leaving, a soldier yells. 20 more Athenian ships are here and more are on the way. There's no time to celebrate, though. You know that the Corinthians may return with more ships. The next day your ships are lined up again in case the Corinthians try to land on Corcyra. Sure enough, the Corinthians return. But at the sight of your force, they turn around and sail away. As you watch the Corinthians leave, your captain appears at your side. We've won a great victory, he says with a proud smile. But you aren't so sure. The Corinthians didn't take Corcyra, but Corcyra still suffered heavy losses. I think both sides will say they won this battle, you tell him. The captain's smile fades. What will you tell Pericles, he asks. I'm going to tell him Athens won because we did. The goal was met. The Corinthians didn't invade and take over. That's what the mission was. We did it. Sybota was an Athenian victory, you tell Pericles when you return home. The Corinthians are stopped from landing on Corcyra. The next day they retreated. Pericles is pleased. He says, I'm taking action against 2 other allies of Corinth, Megara and Potidæa. I've issued the Megarian decree. This order will stop Megara from trading with Athens and the rest of the Delian League. Also, I'm sending soldiers to march on Potidæa. The people there are upset that we've more than doubled the tribute they pay us. Now Corinth is encouraging Potidæa to rebel against Athens. I want you to go to Potidæa as my representative. But you're not sure that action against Spartan allies is a good idea. What will you tell Pericles? We should go. I think we should go. You are with the Athenian army at Potidæa. The Potidæans have revolted against Athens, and Corinth have sent soldiers to help them. A battle has begun outside the city, and you are watching it from a hill. In one part of the battle, the Corinthian troops overcome the Athenian soldiers, but overall the Athenian soldiers win. At the end of the battle, the Corinthians and Potidæans have lost about 300 men. Athens lost only about 150 soldiers. After the battle, you congratulate one of the Athenian commanders. This was only the first step, he tells you. Now we're going to lay siege to Potidæa. If we stop food and supplies from getting into the city, the people have no choice but to surrender completely. We can use your help. Can you stay here a while? Pericles expects you to return to Athens and report to him on the battle, but with the problems in your friendship, you're not sure that you want to do that. Maybe you should stay. That is... I think we should stay, honestly, because, our job is to make sure that, we're overseeing everything, and clearly not everything's done. I mean, we stopped the siege, but not all the issues are resolved, so I think we should stay. Here we go. You stay in Potidæa to help plan the siege. At first, everything goes well. Athenian soldiers surrounded the city, preventing supplies from reaching the people inside. Soon the Potidæans are starving. They will soon have to give up. One morning, a soldier rushes into your room. There's something wrong with some of the men, he shouts. Please come quickly. You follow him to the barracks. You are horrified by what you see. Some soldiers are bleeding from their mouths. Others are doubled over, vomiting on the floor. You realize what's wrong. These soldiers have the plague. Oof. You know that you should stay and try to help, but the plague has passed from one person to another. The best thing may be to flee to Athens while you're still well. Yeah, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. We are getting out before we get the plague. 49. You board the ship heading back to Athens. The journey will take several days. The next morning, you wake up with a pounding headache. Your eyes are red and burning. Soon you're coughing up blood. You have the plague. For a week you lay in your bed, burning up with fever. The ship reaches Athens, but you are left alone on the boat in the harbor. No one wants to catch the plague from you. On the 8th day you die. You never see your family or your beloved Athens again. Rats, you died from plague. It's just doing my job. Okay, so let's be a sculptor. Page 30. Growing up in Athens, you were interested in many subjects. Careers in philosophy, medicine, and art all appealed to you. Your interest in art went out and you became a student of Phidias. Let's go with that. He's one of the most famous sculptors in Athens. Phidias is a close friend of Pericles, who has led Athens for the last 29 years. About 50 years ago, the Persians attacked and destroyed much of Athens. Now that Athens is doing well, Pericles is rebuilding the city. Phidias is overseeing much of the construction. One day you are working on a small statue in Phidias' workshop. You look up to see Phidias at your side. You are a hard worker and a good student, he says with a smile. I've been watching you and I think you have a great deal of talent. These words make you proud, but what Phidias says next makes your heart soar. I have 2 important projects. I'd like you to help me with one of them. One project is a building in Athens. The other is a statue. Which one would you rather work on? I think we should do the architecture. It's more famous. Or hopefully will become more famous. You and Phidias stand before the Perioikoi, the huge gateway to the Acropolis. Phidias tells you, this building was started about 5 years ago. There's still much work to be done on it. Across the Acropolis is the Parthenon. Work on this enormous marble temple started about 15 years ago. Inside the Parthenon is Phidias' huge new statue of Athena. The Parthenon will be finished later this year, Phidias says. I think it will be one of Athens' most famous buildings. After you and Phidias have studied both buildings, he offers you a choice. Would you like to help finish the Parthenon, or would you rather work on the Propylaea? The Parthenon, of course. I mean, iconic. You decide to work on the Parthenon. This grand temple is dedicated to the goddess Athena. You help carve sculptures on the east and west ends of the roof. These sculptures show important events in Athena's life. After 2 months, your work is going well. The building is almost finished, but one day Phidias comes to you. He looks troubled. Page 37. You know that Pericles and I are friends, Phidias says. Pericles is a popular leader, but like all politicians, he has enemies. Some of them have accused me of stealing gold that was to be used for the Parthenon statue of Athena. You're shocked. How could anyone accuse Phidias of such a crime? You would never do that, you tell him. I'm innocent, Phidias says quietly, but if you stay loyal to me and they find me guilty, you risk being sent away from Athens. I'm giving you a choice. You can stay with me and help me prove my innocence, or you can protect your career and study with another sculptor. I can recommend you to Polycletus. You'll learn much from him. I'm going to help my mentor. Phidias has helped you a great deal. You need to help him prove his innocence. You and Phidias meet with his accusers in the Parthenon. As you stand in front of the statue of Athena, Phidias says to you, peel the gold off the statue. I can't do that, you reply, unable to believe your ears. Don't worry, he says. I built the statue so that the gold can easily be taken off and put back on. When the gold is off, we will weigh it. That will prove there is no gold missing. It's a little suspicious. You fight to keep your hands from shaking as you peel the gold from the statue. When you are finished, the gold is weighed. It's all there. Phidias is innocent. I knew you didn't steal the gold, you tell Phidias later. Thank you for standing by me, he smiles, but I am leaving Athens and I don't think I'll return. I'll go with you, you tell him. No, your life is here. If you want to continue sculpting, I will introduce you to one of Greece's best-known sculptors, Polycletus. But when you first became my student, you said you were also interested in philosophy and medicine. If you'd like to change careers, I can introduce you to some good teachers. Let's go to Polycletus. He keeps trying to push me onto this other teacher, so we may as well take his offer. We decide to study with Polycletus in the city of Argos. Polycletus is known for his bronze sculptures of the human body. One day you're admiring a statue of a man holding a spear when the sculptor walks up to you. The statue looks so real, you tell Polycletus. It seems like it's about to walk across the room. That's because its weight is balanced on one foot, he replies. That's how people really stand. It makes the statue look more lifelike. You are honored to be a student of this great sculptor. One day you hope to be as skilled as both of your famous teachers. The end. We got a good ending. Yes. Awesome. Okay, so let's do another Athens adventure and be a philosopher or doctor. I think we should be if it gives me a choice, I want to be a philosopher. Right? You face a decision of whether to study philosophy or medicine. You have the chance to study with either Socrates or Hippocrates. Socrates is one of the best-known Athenian philosophers. His goal is to teach his students how to find their own answers. Hippocrates also has new ideas. He's developing new ways of practicing medicine. Both two very famous people. Because, like the Socratic method it talks about there of teaching. But there's also like the Hippocratic oath that doctors take. Like two legacies that still has today. But I'm going to go with Socrates. You decide to study with Socrates. He teaches in the agora instead of in a school, and he doesn't tell his students what to think. Instead, he keeps asking questions to help his students find an answer. As students answer the questions, they discover the answer. Socrates remains famous throughout the city for many years, but his ideas might be too new, even in Athens. One day he is put on trial for introducing new gods and refusing to recognize Athens as gods. He's also accused of being a bad influence on the city's young men. As a follower of Socrates, you risk getting into trouble. You might even be attacked by a mob in the agora. To avoid danger, you should break with Socrates and reject his ideas. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna break from Socrates. This sounds like trouble. Sorry, Socrates. I was excited at first, but too radical, I guess. See, page 57. You decide to stay away from the agora and not to defend your ideas. Socrates was tried and put to death for his beliefs. You see what I mean? You don't want the same thing to happen to you. All morning you listen for sounds of fighting, but none come. Then you see two of Socrates' students returning from the agora. As they pass, you listen to their conversation. That crowd was angry, one student says, but all they did was yell at us. They walk on, and you wonder if you gave up your beliefs for nothing. Then you realize that if you really believed in those ideas, you would have fought for them. Oh, man, maybe one day you'll have ideas that you'll support without question. Till then, you'll keep searching. Darn. Oh, let's go to Sparta. Let's be Spartans. Page 63. City of War. It's a sunny spring day in Sparta. As you walk through the city, you notice many older men. They are citizens who serve in the assembly that governs Sparta. You don't see many young Spartan men because they are in the army. You do see Spartan women. Unlike in Athens, Spartan women have a great deal of freedom. They go where they please. The Spartans you pass in the street all have a look of determination and discipline on their faces. They are also quiet. Spartans don't talk much. When they do talk, they say no more than they have to. That is the Spartan way. You leave the city and travel to a nearby town. Here you see merchants and craftspeople. They are perioikoi, a word that means dwellers around the city. These free people are not citizens and cannot take part in government. They work and trade in business, which Spartans are not allowed to do. As you travel through the countryside, you see another type of people, the helots. They are the lowest class of people and are treated like slaves. They tend the land that the state gives to each Spartan family. Helots must give half the food they grow to the Spartans. They keep the rest of the food for themselves. The three classes of people in Sparta lead very different lives, but they all play an important part in Spartan society. So we're going to be a Spartan soldier, a helot, and a perioikoi. I hope that's how you say that. Probably not. Anyway, let's be a soldier first. It is 425 BCE, and you are a 35-year-old Spartan man. You have been in the army for 15 years, and you will stay in the army until you are 60. You lead a simple life filled with order and sacrifice. Sparta has been fighting a war with Athens for 6 years. In war, you always fight bravely. You still remember what your mother said to you before your first battle. Come back with your shield or on it. In other words, survive the battle or die fighting. You live in the army barracks and eat your meals with other soldiers. Your wife and children live on your kleros, the land given to you by the state. Soldiers are officially not allowed to leave the barracks, even to see their families. But like other married soldiers, you sneak away to see your family at times. You haven't seen your family in 2 weeks. Should you sneak away from the barracks tonight to visit them? Sure, why not? Let's sneak out. We're probably going to get caught and killed or something. You move quietly through the streets. If you are reported, you will return to the barracks in shame, not for sneaking away, but for being caught. Suddenly you see a boy sneaking out of a house. You know that he has just stolen food from the people who live there. You also did this when you were his age. Boys in military school are purposefully not fed enough. They are expected to steal food as part of their survival training. They aren't punished for stealing, but they are punished if they're caught. You should punish the boy for getting caught, but if you do, you bring attention to yourself. Then you'll have to go back to the barracks without seeing your family. Honor first. We have to punish the boy. The end. Oh, okay, good. You call out to the boy, and he turns and runs. You chase after him. When you catch him, his eyes show no fear. He will take the punishment without showing his feelings, like a good Spartan. You tell him you got caught. You raise your hand and hit him several times, but you don't want to really hurt the boy. You saw the courage in his eyes. You hope that your own son, who was also in military school, was as brave as this boy. Finally, you say, go. As you watch the boy run away, you realize that people have seen you. You drawn attention to yourself and you now risk being reported. What should you do? Well, I guess we should go back to the barracks then. You don't want to risk being reported, so you go back to the barracks. You won't see your wife, but you've been a good Spartan. You've helped train a future soldier. Your friend Cleomidas is in the barracks when you return. There's news, he tells you. We're going to attack the Athenian fort on the peninsula of Pylos. Like Cleomidas, you show no feelings at the news. You nod your head and check your equipment. You know you're expected to fight like a brave Spartan, but that means you may never see your family again. You're more likely to survive if you try to be cautious in battle. No, we're Spartans. We have to fight bravely. It's like what they're best known for. 89, right? Yeah. Fight bravely. You are aboard one of 43 Spartan triremes. These ships have 3 rows of oars on each side. You and your fellow soldiers are about to attack the military base at Pylos. The rocky landing point is difficult to reach. I just glanced at the next page, which is when you let the boy go. It's the end. Ha, for good soldiers. The rocky landing point is difficult to reach. Some captains are hanging back to avoid wrecking their ships on the rocks. Push forward. Brasidas, your captain yells at them. Sacrifice your boats for Sparta if that's what it takes. This whole series, and I still haven't learned how to pronounce Greek names right. You and the other soldiers obey. Brasidas and... I read that completely wrong. You and the other soldiers obey Brasidas and run your boat onto the shore. There, a large number of Athenian soldiers stand ready to attack. Brasidas is about to jump out when he's badly wounded. Still alive, he falls into the boat as his shield slips into the sea. Spurred on by Brasidas' courage, you leap out of the boat. 2 enemy soldiers thrust at you with spears. 2 more lunge at you with swords. You fight bravely, and there are too many blades to dodge. An enemy sword finds the target in your chest. You fall to the ground, your hands stained with your own blood. Your last thought is that you are proud to have given your life for Sparta. Alright, what was the page? Here we go. We're going to live as a helot now. 73. You live in the country, a half-day's travel from Sparta. You farm a kleros that belongs to a Spartan family. You grow grain, olives, and grapes. You must give half the food you grow to the Spartan family. Your people outnumber Spartans by about 7 to 1, so the Spartans don't give you a chance to overcome them. Every year they declare war on the helots. Yikes. They kill men who might become leaders or revolt against Sparta. Also, young Spartan soldiers go into the countryside. At night they kill helots they catch outside. You're not allowed to leave your kleros and settle in a different area. Still, you know you are better off than slaves in other parts of Greece. You can't be bought or sold. You are allowed to marry and to choose your own spouse. If you have children, they are yours, not your master's. You're also allowed to have money. If you can get enough, you could pay the landowner to allow you to leave the kleros and settle somewhere else. One day you hear a stranger from Athens is secretly meeting with helots after dark to talk about rebellion. You want to hear what he has to say, but Spartan soldiers are hiding in the area. I mean, I kind of just want to stay home. Like, I'm kind of a chicken. Like, I don't want to... I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to play it safe this time. Just keep our heads low. You are curious about what the stranger has to say, but you also think of your family. Freedom won't mean much to your wife and children. If a Spartan kills you, you decide to stay home. Late that night, a neighbor knocks at your door. A helot from a nearby kleros went to meet the stranger, he tells you. On the way home, a Spartan killed him. See? I was right. You are relieved you stayed home, but as you fall asleep that night, you dream of freedom. One day, amazing news comes from Sparta. Spartan leaders want 2,000 helots to fight with the Spartan army. The helots will be given their freedom in return. This is the chance you've been waiting for, yet you fear it could be a Spartan trick. Stay home or go to Sparta. Well, okay, so if we go to war, we could die. If it's a trick, we could die. Or we could just stay home and keep living our lives. I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm boring. Let's see. You are sure that this offers a Spartan trick. Yet as you watch other helots leave, you wonder if you're making the right decision. One day a traveler stops by your house and asks for a drink of water. The helots in Sparta are being treated well, he tells you. They can go anywhere they please. They're even allowed to go to the temples. Have you made a huge mistake? But weeks later, another traveler tells you something very different. All the helots who went to Sparta have disappeared. No one knows what happened to them. Some people say the Spartans killed them all. That night you dream of fighting Sparta for your freedom. One day, news comes that 420 Spartan soldiers are trapped in the island of Sphacteria after the Battle of Pylos. Oh. Sparta wants helots to risk their lives to bring supplies to the trapped soldiers. Helots who succeed will be freed. You remembered what happened the last time the Spartans offered freedom. Is this another trick? I mean, obviously. We're staying home. Way in the back of the book. 37. You won't risk your life for Sparta. If Athenians catch the helots, they will kill them. Exactly. In the coming days, you wonder if you made the right decision. Each day is the same as you toil in the fields and wait for news. Finally, the news comes. The Spartans on Sphacteria surrendered. Spartans don't surrender. Your first reaction is amazement. No one thought Spartans would surrender. Perhaps they are not as brave as everyone thinks. You ask about the helots who went to Sphacteria. Several were killed, but the ones who lived were set free. Had you gone, you might have won your freedom, but you might have died in the attempt. You weren't free, but at least you're still alive. You know what? I consider that a successful ending. If you don't die, and you're not miserable, well, I mean, we're kind of miserable, but we're still alive with our family, right? So, I consider that a win, honestly. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, last one is to be a perioikoi. Whatever. I hope I say that right. Perioikoi. Let's go with it. You are a member of the perioikoi, the free people who live in the Laconia territory outside Sparta. Your people have settled about 80 small towns surrounding the city. When the Spartans conquered Laconia hundreds of years ago, your people weren't made slaves like the helots. Perioikoi have a special role in Spartan society. Spartans are not allowed to work in business, and helots can only farm. Perioikoi are the craftspeople and business owners. They make pots, spin wool, and weave clothing. Your people don't have unlimited rights. Perioikoi can't marry Spartans or participate in the government. You pay taxes to Sparta and must serve in the army if called. But in some ways you have more freedom than the Spartan citizens do. You can travel to other cities without permission. You can own land. You wear clothes that are warmer than Spartans' clothing. You are allowed to own gold and silver. Some perioikoi even become rich. Perioikoi are given these freedoms because Sparta doesn't fear them. When the helots rebelled almost 40 years ago, only 2 perioikoi towns joined them. The other towns remained loyal to Sparta. You wish for more rights, but you realize your people don't have the weapons or training to defeat the Spartans. One day you receive orders to join the Spartan army. You're not sure you're willing to die for Sparta, but if you don't join the army, you'll have to leave the city. So we're going to join the army. That's all there is to it. You're aboard a Spartan ship called a trireme, attacking the Athenians on the peninsula of Pylos. Man, it's all about this Pylos. The Spartans have 43 triremes, but the battle isn't going well for them. Right? They're not naval. That's the Athenians. The water is rough and the coast is rocky. Some captains are hesitating to unload their soldiers. They're afraid of crashing the ships on the rocks. Finally, one captain, Brasidas, takes control of the situation. Push forward, he yells to the other captains. What use is saving your ship if we lose the battle? Brasidas orders his crew to run up the trireme on land. Inspired by Brasidas, your captain does the same thing. As your boat hits the shore, you leap out to face the Athenians. The surf pounds around you, and the rocks underfoot are slippery. The Spartans outnumber the Athenians, but your men are not coming ashore quickly enough. There's still time to run away. What will you do? I'm gonna fight. Like, we're at war. Like, it's happening. We need to go. We have to do what we're here to do. The Athenians are well prepared for this attack. You're sloshing through the water. Your armor weighs you down. Arrows fall around you. Behind you, Spartan soldiers fall dead in the sea. Ships crash into the rocks. Someone calls out, Brasidas has fallen. You turn and see men on Brasidas' boat trying to help their wounded captain. His shield falls into the water. An Athenian soldier scoops it up, holding it in the air as a war trophy. Now 2 Athenians are coming at you. There is no turning back. You lunge forward and fight with all your might. But as a shrill whistle fills the air, arrows rain down on you, and several of them hit their targets. You stumble, fall to the surf, and die. Your last thought is, I died for nothing. Rats. In 2 paths, we died in the same battle, like the same time. It's odd, but anyway, let's read the conclusion. After the Golden Age. Athens and Sparta went to war in 431 BCE. This conflict is called the Peloponnesian War. During the first year of the war, Athenians stopped work on the Propylaea. This grand building was to be the gateway to the city's Acropolis. It was never finished. That's probably what would have happened to us if we did that path. The Peloponnesian War is a turning point in ancient Greek history. At first, Athens seemed to have the advantage, but the plague that struck Athens in 430 BCE changed everything. Many historians believe that this disease was typhoid fever. At least 1/3 of Athenians died, including the city's leader Pericles. Even so, Athens continued to fight for 26 more years. After Athens surrendered in 404 BCE, Sparta tore down Athens' walls and set up its own government to rule the city. The Greek city-states continued to fight one another and became weaker as a result. Meanwhile, Macedonia, a kingdom to the north, became stronger. In 338 BCE, the Macedonians scored a major military victory against Greece. As a result, Greece lost much of its independence. In 336 BCE, Alexander the Great became the king of Macedonia. His empire eventually stretched from Greece to India. The time following Alexander's death, 323 BCE, is called the Hellenistic Age. During this time, Greek philosophy, literature, politics, religion, art, and law spread from Africa to India. The Hellenistic Age lasted until 146 BCE when the Romans took control of Greece. The ancient Greeks laid the foundations of Western civilization. Modern democracies are built on Greek beliefs in government by the people, trial by jury, and equality. Greeks introduced forms of literature that include comedy and tragedy. Today, doctors take an oath based on the teachings of Hippocrates. Greek ideas about art and architecture continue to inspire modern artists. We haven't learned all there is to know about ancient Greece. Archaeologists are still discovering ruins. Great minds of today are still studying the ideas of the ancient Greek philosophers. In many ways, this fascinating civilization is very much alive in our modern world. And that's the end of our adventure. So, that was fun. These books are always so exciting. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this video relaxing to some extent. Listen to the rain outside. It never really rains where I live, so it's exciting to hear. But it's time to go to sleep now, so let's have a very good night.